Hello, good to see you. I'm Izza, Izelan, and you're watching Tamu AWANI, where we get intimate with interesting, influential, and important individuals from around the world. And it is such a pleasure for Astro AWANI, as well as for myself, to have such an honorable guest on our show tonight. And this very eccentric person is actually an anchor and a journalist for CNN, and he has been in the broadcast journalism industry for the longest of time. And he actually hosts his own shows, one of which is named after himself, Quest Means Business, as well as the more recent one, which is The Business Traveler, which is also why he is here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And with that, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. It is Mr. Richard Quest himself, right here on the hot seat of Tamu AWANI. Welcome to the show, and welcome to Malaysia.
Good to see you. Although I have to say, let's have a little bit less of the long time.
Okay.
You know, I may have a few aches and bones and a few sort of twinges every now and again.
Well, let's get the white elephant out in the room. And how old are you?
Oh. Oh.
No, I'm just
now,
kidding.
they told me that you were quite
kidding.
nice. They lied. No. I'm not ashamed.
No,
I'm 51 years old.
Wow.
Yes, that usually means he's holding up quite well for an oldie. I'll be 52, born in 1962, March the 9th. Well, presents, gifts, and expensive things can be sent to me. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Good.
So now we know that your birthday is March the 9th.
March the 9th.
So maybe we can
I'm
send
a
you
Pisces.
a birthday card.
I'm a Pisces.
Yeah, well, very mysterious. But what I'm talking about is the white elephant that I'm trying to talk about. I don't know if you know, it's actually your voice. It's very distinctive, and it could be its own channel by itself. So do you agree that your voice is actually one of the most interesting and distinctive aspect of you that actually got you this far, and you know how people know you?
No. And the reason is I don't see my voice as being anything different than it actually is. I think I have this delightful, gentle, classic newsreader voice that will lull people into some wonderful, false, or nice slumbers. But people tell me, and one person famously sort of wrote on a blog, that I sounded like I was gargling with broken glass. I can't hear my voice in my own way. When I watch myself on television, I get quite unnerved about it.
Okay.
The question, of course, is whether it's real. And yes, it is. This is how I speak. I don't put the voice on. I do a bit more projection because I'm talking to you and I'm talking to your viewers.
But this is your voice.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So let's get crunching on the cracking questions. Why you're here in Kuala Lumpur, and it is actually for your show, Business Travel. Maybe you want to talk a bit about what it's all about and who you're going to meet here in Kuala Lumpur.
We've been doing Business Traveller now for more than 10 years. And we've been to many cities in this region. We've never been to KL before. I've been to KL a few times, but we've never been to KL for Business Traveller. So we decided it was really time to come here and actually do a program. And the theme of this month's program is value for money. And that is a perfect example for this particular city and this country. Now look, we're not saying cheap and we're not saying expensive. The concept of value for money hits at all different price points. Because if you pay less, you expect a certain number of things happening. If you pay more, you expect different things. But you always still expect value for money. No, value for money does not mean cheap. It doesn't mean inexpensive. It means that whether you've chosen to stay in a cheap hotel or an inexpensive hotel, or you're staying in a 5-star luxury hotel, you want the best value for money. I've never met a rich man or woman who's actually like wasting money. So we're all about value for money. And what better place than here, where you have, of course, duty-free on jewellery and watches. You have so many opportunities to buy leather goods. Again, we'll be looking at duty-free. We'll be looking at the sort of things you can do. And, of course, value for money. We'll be looking at the street.
All right. So will you give us a lowdown or a sneak preview of who you'll be meeting up?
Well, the CEO of Malaysia Airlines. We've got Tim on. With the CEO of Tune Hotels, we'll be talking to them because they've really revolutionized in many ways the offering. What you pay for is what you get. If you don't want it, you don't pay for it and you don't get it. But is that value for money? And then we have reports from around the world. We'll be looking at duty free. Now, how many times, Izza, have you been traveling and you've seen something in duty free and you've thought, is that really a bargain? Is it really duty free? And what does that mean? So we'll be looking at that too. Across the travel chain, it's about value for money. And as I say, we'll be seeing as much as we can of KL.
Do you still remember the first day that you decide to actually do this, you know, to make it a career? Or is it just by accident? How does it happen?
No, there's absolutely no accident about this.
So you've always known that you want to be an anchor and a journalist?
The anchoring comes later. The anchoring, people always say, when you're a reporter, you want to be an anchor, and when you're an anchor, you want to be back as a reporter. I think if you're going to be a news anchor, a presenter, a grand fromage, and sit there and say, good evening, the headlines at 7 o'clock. I think if you're going to do that, you better have some experience, not only of television, but of covering stories. Because I think there has to be a weight to the anchor. Well, by definition.
Yep, by definition, that's why you call it an anchor.
An anchor.
Yep.
And whilst it's very tempting to have sort of the latest young thing anchoring, and maybe there's a call for that, I think you'll find ultimately anchoring and presenting and doing the evening news does gravitate ultimately to the more experienced. So to answer your question, I decided very early on, 6, 7, 8, 9, that I loved broadcasting. And I did university radio and hospital radio as I was going through my teens. And then I did local radio. And then I got a traineeship. And even though I was a qualified or lawyer, I decided that I preferred broadcasting.
Wow, okay. We will talk about what you like so much about broadcasting after this break. We have to go for our break. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned on Astro. All right, welcome back to Tamu AWANI, and we're still with Richard Quest, grilling him on the hot seat of Tamu AWANI. All right, Richard, so we were asking you about your passion towards broadcasting and journalism. You have been involved in this since the earlier age, right? So what is it about broadcasting and journalism that you really love?
Oh, it's very easy. It is absolutely easy. It is the ability and knowledge that you are telling people something they either haven't heard or don't know, or you're helping them understand why this might be important in the bigger context. It is not some massive ego boost that you're on television or radio or whatever. It is about going to the stories, whether it be the Queen Mother's funeral in the early 2003 or whatever, or a general election, a US presidential election. I've been very fortunate. I've covered every US presidential election since the mid-1980s. Now, there's a fascinating, I'm looking forward to the next one. Because why am I looking forward to the next one? Because we'll be able to explain in 2016 what this means. We know there'll be a change of president in the White House. Obama can't stand again, he's term limited. So it's a chance to see history on the front seat and then have the great privilege of saying to the viewer, this has happened. But here's the really important thing. It is a privilege and it is an honor to do it because nobody has to watch you. We are nothing more than a light in a box in the corner of the room that somebody can switch off.
Yep. That's very daunting, actually. That you.
It should not
actually. Yep.
It should not only be daunting, it should be humbling.
Humbling, yep.
Because the moment you believe you have a right to the viewer, and the moment you believe that you are, I suppose I'm pontificating in saying this, but the moment you believe you're giving something like tablets from the Mounts and the Sermon, you're screwed, frankly. You're absolutely screwed. The viewer will decide who they like and what they want.
I really like how you put it that way, and because you have covered so many important events around the world throughout your stint as a reporter in BBC and also now in CNN, what are the most interesting or the most memorable event that you have actually covered?
They happen at different times. So as a junior reporter working for BBC Radio many years ago, driving through my first hurricane. You won't forget that again, because you realise what an idiot you were to think. I remember going to the local TV station and saying, would I be all right driving from a hurricane from Galveston to Matamoros, or wherever it was in and the man said, what car have you got? I told him. He said, oh, you should stay on the road. And then you start driving along and you suddenly realise you're the only person driving in that direction and everybody else is driving in the other direction. And then the rain starts. And by then it's too late.
Okay.
Then it's too late. It's as if somebody has taken the garden hose and is literally against the window. And you keep thinking, what's going on? So there's that. Or then you've got, when I covered the funeral of Pope John Paul II, or the Queen Mother. Or then you've got the royal weddings that one covers. Things like that. Those are the moments you remember.
Wow, okay. And you've met a lot
since
There's another one.
Well, in this area of the world, the inaugural flight of the A380, Singapore Airlines, from Singapore to Sydney. Now, you know, all right, it was a cute day and I was enjoying it. Better still, the last flight of Concorde from New York to London. Now, I was on that plane, yay!
Wow. And you've met a lot of iconic people, actually, from around. You've met the holy Dalai Lama and also to the Playboy magazine founder, Hugh Hefner. Who are the most interesting person, or who are the most interesting people that you've actually met and you actually love interviewing?
It's interesting. They're often not the famous, and they're usually not the celebrities.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. When Latvia joined the European Union, I was there talking to some old woman up a church steeple, and we were interviewing her. And she had seen communism go. She had seen all their money go. She had seen their pensions go. She had seen everything since it was no longer communist. And I said to this woman in Riga, I said, okay, would you like to go back to communism?
Okay.
Would you like to go back to communism and get your pension and your health care? Give me your hand. Give me your hands. And she said, she grabbed my hand. She said, no, she said, my grandchildren will live in the European Union. Now, this woman was, and then she gave me a coin, an old coin from old Latvia, which I still have in my briefcase, and I travel everywhere with it. Those are the moments you remember, because they are the moments of real life. It's not some star telling you why they've done a new movie. That bores me rigid, unless it's a reason of a movie that they really wanted to make. But if it's another million, 10 million, nah. You want the people who've got a story to tell, because that's what resonates to the viewer.
Wow, all right. So is there anybody else in the world that you would love to meet or to interview?
Where do we start? Where do we start? I mean,
some of the people on your wish list?
Oh, my wish list. Okay. Always wanted to interview Tom Cruise. Don't ask me. I just think he...
Why on earth?
Well, why not? I just think he must have a lot to say. Okay. Now, I want to interview him, not just about his views on this, that, or the other, but I want to hear what makes the man tick.
Okay.
Again, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay.
I mean, here you see, if you see his work on Wolves of Wall Street, this is a tour de force. This is a masterful performance from a man that nobody said was going much far after Titanic.
Yep.
So you want now? I hear you're saying, "Oh, these are very odd people." He's come up with two people from. They are the people. You want to interview people who've got a story to tell.
And you feel that these two people have stories to tell.
Oh yeah. The Dalai Lama. Fascinating. Again, when I met him a couple of times. It is a fascinating privilege to sit with that man. It's a huge honour, and hear what he has to say. Anybody who's doing something.
All right, Richard, so that's very interesting, and we might like to get a little bit personal with you, but not until after this break. All right, so Richard, a few years back, you have been very controversial for some things that what people call as the New York incident. Maybe you have something to comment about what actually happened.
Oh, right. I mean, you're right. It's now coming up to 6 years ago since the New York incident and my arrest in New York, and one's had lots of time to reflect upon that. I can tell you this. In one's life, there are those moments of crises. There are those times when you have events of which you regret. But as your viewers will know, anyone who's faced this sort of lifetime crisis, arrest, death of a loved one, a major personal incident, you get through it with the help and support of other people. And it often sounds like such a cliche when you say it, but anybody who's been through it knows that to be the case. So do I regret the events? I've said many times, yes, of course. But I don't dwell. Frankly, I don't dwell on what happened. I prefer to be gratified and uplifted by those people who helped me and supported me, so that thankfully I'm able to sit here today with you and discuss these wider issues.
Yeah, and some people think that could be a setback for you, but actually you've risen and you've hosted your own shows and stuff. How do you pick yourself up after that?
You just do. You do it with other people. You do it with other people. You don't do it on your own.
So it's the support of your
Absolutely.
family and friends.
Absolutely. It's the support of family, of friends, of colleagues, of the organisation. Those are the sort of... the facts of what happened are irrelevant at one level. It is the understanding of a crisis in one's life. And it is at those moments, it's not what happens that's important, it's how you respond to them that's important. Anybody will tell you that. It's what you do as a person that becomes the important issue.
All right, so you've done a lot in the span of your career. How do you actually wind down? What is an off day for you?
It's a very good question, and it's one that I have to continually review. Because there isn't much downtime. And arguably, yes, that is a dysfunctional life. It is not a life, it's a great one, and I'm loving it, and I'm having a lot of fun. But if you bear in mind what I've done since the beginning of the year, Zurich, Moscow, New York, San Francisco, Dubai, Hong Kong, KL, and that is, you can't keep that up. So what I'm looking forward to particularly is getting back home to New York next week, whereupon routine will return. The gym every morning at 7 a.m. with my trainer. In the office with a proper breakfast at 9 to 9:30. The morning meeting. Sounds so dull. The morning meeting with my colleagues. Doing the programme. Tidying my sock drawer. Doing some renovations at home. Dinner with friends. Catching up on those movies. And best of all, sleeping in my own bed.
Okay, do you have a particular interest maybe in music?
I thought you were going to say, do I have a particular bed? Yes, I do actually. No. It's a rather comfortable one actually.
So do you have any hobbies?
I sleep on the left side.
Left side?
Left side, yeah, left side.
Okay, so do you have any interests or hobbies that you're particularly fond of?
Yeah, when I'm at home and when I'm in New York and when I'm travelling to an extent, working out. Look, it's a bit tedious, and anybody who, in the sense of other people, find it tedious, but I find it very satisfying to spend an hour, 2 hours in the gym. Not because I want to become muscles galore, that ain't going to happen, but I can affect the way I look, I can affect the way I feel, I can affect me. So I'm careful with what I eat. Oh, not on the road. I will be, you watch me. If you see me eating the street food in KL over the next few days, I will be the original Hoover.
Yeah, that's the way to do.
Absolutely. I will be hoovering up everything in sight. I'll try it once, and if I like it, I'll try it 5 times. But when I get home, the diet will be back. The gym will be back. Because I have to ground myself. You cannot live this sort of life. If I've learned nothing else over the last 10 years, you cannot live this sort of life and not every now and again come back to earth. And that means, putting it bluntly, that means, are my socks matching? Yes, they are, fine. Have I got enough clean underwear? No, I'll have to do laundry. Oh, no, I haven't paid that bill. Oh, yeah, no, well, I said I was going to do this. You know, you don't live your life at 40,000 feet in a high-octane environment. You live it every day by wondering whether you've run out of cornflakes. Do your socks match? And have you paid the milkman?
The most mundane stuff.
Yes, that's life.
Yep. All right, so I've always watched you on The Business Traveler and Quest Means Business, and you have a very extravagant personality on screen. Is that how you are?
Yes.
Every day?
Yes.
Okay, if your friends were to describe you, how would they describe you?
Oh! It's a very arrogant person that tries to put words into the mouths of their friends. I look kind, generous, talks too much.
You have done so many things, I'm pretty sure, so far in your life, in your career. Is there anything else that Richard Quest would want to achieve now?
Professionally or personally?
Both. It's 2 different things that you want?
Yeah, professionally, I think, yes. I've always wanted to interview the President of the United States in the Oval Office.
Okay.
Not much, really. I've always wanted to do that. Personally, I've always wanted to learn to fly. I've flown simulators, and coming over here from Hong Kong, I was very honoured to be in the cockpit of the 777. And I mean, the first officer landing, he must have been half my age, and less. And I'm watching him thinking, does he know what he's doing? And of course, he's so competently landing this aircraft, hundreds of tons of steel and all these people on board. I'd love to be able to do that. I think that's a very, very challenging job.
Yeah. So you're a guy who always looks for challenges.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. Yeah, I think you have to. But ultimately, when I'm at home, in my pajamas, with a cup of cocoa, before I go to bed, all I really want to do is catch up with some friends on the phone, send a few emails, and get a good night's sleep.
Still sneaking some emails, huh?
Absolutely.
All right, okay, Richard, I really love to chat with you for as long as we can, but I'm afraid that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for being on Tamu AWANI and having this chat with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a great time in Kuala Lumpur. That was Tamu AWANI with Richard Quest, and I am Izza Izelan. Tune in to Astro AWANI, your favorite news channel. Good night.